Hello. This is George Lees, who carries a poster around his neck every time he goes into town now, and he tells all the people in our local town why the doctors have tried to section him. The letter comes from a woman called Elaine Torrance, and it's to me at my address. Dear Professor Lees, I am a mental health officer with the Scottish Borders Council. I visited unannounced with Dr. Basil Switzer, consultant psychiatrist, on 14th September. However, you were unwilling to speak with either of us. I also phoned today, when again you were unwilling to speak with me. That is visits 5 and 6. Yet, since I began to expose the massive frauds of the doctors, that is Sandy Morris, Dr. Ian Fingland, and all of the dialogue that I have had on the internet since 2011 about the 40% of the doctor's salary that comes from the polypharmacy that they engaged in, that Sandy Morris was ashamed of. Let's listen to the rest of it. Okay? This is a compulsory order to make me take pharmaceuticals. I'm the fittest man in this region. I am mentally agile, and this is just an out and out attempt by the persecution team that have tried to silence me by cutting off my energy, by doing everything to me that has not happened to my wife, because she's in the same debt pool. She lives right next door to the traitor to our country, who is Ian Fingland. Trained as a copper, his dad was a copper before him. I offered to teach the man to fish. Okay, so listen to the demands that this little bastard is making, so that the tyrants that run the world by profiting from the poor people of the world are able to be forced into a straitjacket beyond their will, and despite the fact that that person talks openly to everyone in our community. I'm going with this hanging round my neck into the surgery to explain it to the people in the surgery that are the victims of the polypharmacy fraud. Okay, I'm going to post this video online first, and then I go public with the citizens of Kelso of what they're going to do to me and why they are going to do that within 2 weeks of my wife's team, where Fingland is her friend and took my son to London to the Super Bowl, when I'm accused in that period of financial neglect, which are the only grounds for the divorce. Yeah, at that time. Now there are no grounds for divorce. Every time I go to the court, the same teams mention the issues of my mental health. Okay, so let me read you the whole letter. It's a 40 or 50 page document, and what it will do is it will give them the capacity to fill me full of dopaminergic drugs which are absolutely riddled with side effect issues. Same drugs that Miss Timoshenko was given in Ukraine when she dropped out of the profiteering team on the Gazprom project. Okay, I am a mental health officer with Scottish Borders Council. The letter is dated the 16th of September 2015. I've had 700 hits on the video of their uninvited invasion of my home, and all of the motives that I've declared to those 700 people on several different continents about how the doctors, including the civil service in Scotland, that's Bill Scott. Yeah, he's not yet Sir Bill Scott, but he is Professor Bill Scott, and he's the head of pharmacy in Scotland. Yeah, everything they do is to release drugs that are untested, unassessed, totally for profit, and all of the generic drugs that have been used safely for several generations now are taken down off the list. They're replaced by alpha blockers in the hypertension sector, and no longer do they get the old-fashioned diuretics, yet they get the alpha blockers, which leads to postural hypotension, and when Granny stands up on the couch, she ends up in Dr. Mooney's care home, and that is also Miss Patricia Tom's care home because it was a council asset before the asset stripped it. And that's Alistair Hutton and Deirdre Hutton, the head of the health board, who was mentioned when I threw them out of my home, when I asked them if I could, for my own safety, then begin to record the proceedings. Okay, I'll read you the letter. I am a mental health officer with Scottish Borders Council. I visited unannounced with Dr. Basil Switzer, consultant psychiatrist, on 14th September. However, you were unwilling to speak with either of us. I also phoned today, so that is the 16th of September, 2 days after I had declared for them that there was nothing wrong with me, and to read my website to see what was wrong with their corrupted system and what damage it does to the patients, against the Hippocratic Oath, which is also published on the 6 or 7 pages that are appended to the letters from Dr. Sandy Morris, who initially said he was totally ashamed of what they do, but when he learned that I was unprepared to be a profiteer too, he bailed out of it, and they tried to get me sectioned for the first time in 2011. With my wife still installed in the house. Okay, I am writing to make you aware that I have now been given 2 medical reports, one by Dr. Ian Fingland and one by Dr. Basil Switzer, which requires me to make an application for a community compulsory treatment order. The purpose of this would be to give you pharmacological treatment should the Mental Health Tribunal for Scotland determine such intervention is necessary. When I visited you on 14th September, I had hoped to make you aware of the above. I'm totally aware of what they do and why they put people in straitjackets and why Fingland trained as a policeman. Yeah, it's so that profiteering can continue unabated. Okay? So I'm reliant now on every one of those religious worshippers that I talk to every time, every day, in a genial way, yeah, to establish my sanity. Yeah, and I'm now going to walk into that surgery and ask them to read the letters out to the patients in that surgery. Yeah, the Flemings sit on the desk, Colin Carruthers has hopeless, yeah, all of it. Yeah, that's Colin Carruthers' wife. She's had a massive stroke. They do not see the danger that is coming at them because they're standing in the face of God's laws and the Hippocratic Oath. Yeah? So Valerie Carruthers has had a massive stroke. She cannot own herself. Colin has got massive dopaminergic issues with his tremor, and he walked past my window this morning. Those are my neighbours. Dr. Mooney, who runs the care home with Miss Tom, is also my neighbour. He gives the inspirational speech on Scottish history in the Civic Week celebrations of the culling of our troops and our pipers. Okay, so when I visited you on 14th September, I had hoped to make you aware of the above and also speak to you about a number of issues. I wish to discuss your view of Drs. Fingland and Switzer's opinion that compulsory treatment was necessary, and also your rights in relation to the application. Yeah? I need you now, all of the people of Kelso, all of the children of Kelso High School who I talk to all of the time. Yeah? All of the people I talk to every day I'm in the supermarket. Yeah? Everything I do is constructive and trying to get the funding back into society. It's important that you know you can instruct a solicitor, yet another for-profit exercise, with the corrupted law system that I am confronting almost single-handedly, to contest the application or indeed receive support from Borders Independent Advocacy Service 01896 752200. Information on compulsory treatment orders and solicitors who specialise in mental health law is attached. A massive docket. Yeah? The new Mental Health Act, Healthier Scotland, Scottish Government, all of them, all of the resignations since 2010 are due to my access to all of their massive frauds and the total puppetry that is politics throughout Scotland and the rest of Britain. Okay, so they're experts at releasing massive threatening documents. Yeah, they will not subdue me, and I will not be arrested by them. If they do, it's in the face of the awareness of thousands of members of the public all across the world. Okay? So I don't intend to bother you with the rest of it. I also wanted to discuss with you who you may wish your named person to be. A named person can be someone who helps protect your interests. Yeah, so my sister was prepared to swear in the Jedburgh proceedings with a John Cook on the interlocks with Fred Goodwin in the 1990s. That's my sister's husband. John Dawson is on it. Michael Pinder is on it. Yeah, all of the Kelso Worthies. Provost Stewart's family are on it. Yeah, and the man that was a psychiatric victim, the Batemans, talked to me only yesterday, and he is the son-in-law of the Provost Stewart family that were all listed with Fred Goodwin. And my sister left the BGH because of the corruption in its corridors. Okay? And I'm not prepared to rely on any of the local traitors to my cause, yeah, because all of what I'm doing entirely on my own, with all of the evidence published openly, with 5,000 videos and 120,000 hits already on the internet. What they will do is they will take all of that information down and they will continue to steal from and dismember their patients, and to take away all of the elderly's health, and to privatise all of their homes into the social landlords that I was refused a freedom of information request on. Okay? I also wanted to discuss with you who you may wish your named person to be. A named person can be someone who helps protect your interests if it is proposed that you receive treatment under the Mental Health Care and Treatment Scotland Act 2000. Yeah? So I'm a professor of pharmacology. I'm working unremunerated to prevent the fraud in the healthcare industry, and all of the polypill things that we talked about, they did not talk about my mental health. They talked only about my awareness of their scams and my background in the best drug safety units in the world, and how all of those are lacking funds because of the profiteering from the pharma companies. Yeah, and so a named person can be someone, and they had never heard, even although Dr. Ian Fingland is a policeman, of the RIPAS concept, that you surveil someone in your own home. They are aware now, because I'm a RIPAS victim, only 5,000 of them in Scotland. It needs the Home Secretary to sign. Dr. Fingland had never heard of that. That's PC Fingland, had never heard of the RIPAS surveillance team. He has made now 4 uninvited visits to my home. Yeah? And all of what they received on the internet was on the Gmail system, was exposures through their clinical administrator, their surgery administrator, to my lobbying to stop the profiteering and all of the massive government scams in Scotland. I also wanted to discuss with you who the named person would be. A named person can be someone who helps protect your interests if it's proposed that you receive treatment under the Mental Health Act 2000. Again, I have included a guide to named persons with this letter. And his name is Guy Cooper. Okay, and I anticipate that the Mental Health Tribunal for Scotland will arrange for a tribunal hearing in the coming weeks, where the need for compulsory pharmacological treatment will be discussed and determined. You will, of course, be invited to attend. Isn't that generous of them? Yeah? Will they permit me to record the proceedings, do you think? Can you see how evil this world is? Can you see why Fingland has dropped out of the team? He has no reputation now at all across the continent. 700 hits that video has received in 2 weeks. My son has congratulated me on standing up to their bullying. That is Grant Lees, who's now being stolen from in Dundee University by Brian Cox, the media man and the chancellor at that university. Yeah, and what they've got in that same town are the leaders of NATO's armies. That's General Charles Guthrie on the board of the NM Rothschild Bank since 2002, appointed there by Tony Blair, and he was the NATO Field Marshal that brutalised the Balkans, that brutalised both Iraq and Afghanistan. And he is a massive aristocrat in this country. He's on the NM Rothschild Bank, and all that makes these people tick is the money stream, and from dismembering society using their evil and totally unjustified tactics. Okay, so can you see the pressure that I am under now that my wife's solicitor has access to all of my funds? I cannot pay the obligatory bill that arrived yesterday from NPower, who are massive fraudsters but do not get challenged by any law enforcement anywhere in the world. It's a European organisation stealing from Scottish taxpayers and ratepayers. Okay? And these people have never had the permission to enter my home to discuss anything other than genial social issues. I invited Fingland to my home. Let me read out the letter I sent to her. Okay, so that's Prof. George Lee's Revelations, cites Google. Okay, and if we look up Dr. X and Dr. Y, we'll find the letters that I sent, because the letters came from the Kelso surgery, and I was decent enough to shield Dr. Sandy Morris and all of the confessions that he made, and to shield Dr. Fingland as Drs. X and Dr. Y. Okay, so there's the website. There is where all of the ruckus began to happen, because I'm onto the illegitimacy of the monarchy all the way across the Borders region into the Cumbrian coast. Okay, 163 years of it. My registered delivery letter to the Queen was never registered as received. She's been twice in the Borders since then, opening up railway scams and visiting her palace in Holyrood, right opposite the corrupted government. Okay, so let's look up Dr. X and Dr. Y. Referral to psychiatric services for my interests in local health care. Okay, modified on the 21st of August 2015, because I felt obliged to add the facts that X and Y are actually Morris and Fingland, and the sad bastards have, for the third time, yeah, it's now 6, tried to get me referred to psychiatric services for revealing their profiteering at the patient's. Okay, kids, so there's a gap in that, and it ends up, revealed the religious banking and monarchy fraud interlocks, and I will not be attending Dr. Basil Switzer's offer of a free consult, because the letter that they sent said nothing will happen of your invitation by us to attend our hospital visit if you give us permission to engage in it, and your meeting will be given to another one of our needy patient groups. I need to work on behalf of their needy patients, because their needy patients are the innocents in our world and in this region, and all of what they're doing is trying to silence the innocents. Yeah, and all of it coincides absolutely with the coercion of the law courts and Sheriff Peter Patterson to get me to sign a document forcefully. Yeah, otherwise all of the decisions on my case, like this one, would be made by the court, and that's Peter Patterson, who interlocks with the Better Off Together dead boss, yeah, McCletchy, and he interlocks also with Peter Watson at the fatal accident inquiries at Levy and McRae, who has been shamed by me into resignation and retirement. Right then, there's the one on the Hippocratic Oath, There's the treasonous divorce case to silence me, the final hearing, still no grounds. That's the coercion by Sheriff Peter Patterson, yeah, who works for Murray and Spence, and it's a massive set. He has a debt pool now of £28,000. Miss Tom is in a surplus situation of £800,000, because what she does is she breaks families up this way. NHS fraud, the cost to the taxpayers and the patients, yeah. Drugs, booze and vice, the fascist links, the French connection, introduction, yeah, and all of it just refers to all of the times that I refer to the massive NHS frauds and the asset stripping of the best NHS in the world. Right then. So, X and Y are actually, so I've changed it now, referral to psychiatric services for my interests in local healthcare. X and Y are actually Morris and Fingland, and the sad bastards have for the third time tried to get me referred to psychiatric services for revealing their profiteering at the patient's expense. The last letter from NHS Borders arrived on my doorstep the day I revealed the religious banking and monarchy fraud interlocks, and I will not be attending Dr. Basil Switzer's offer of a free consult. Yeah, they pretended that that would be then given to someone else. I did not write back to them saying I would consent to that, and they relayed to me in the original letter that is around my neck every time I go for a walk. Yeah, and will be again today. Yeah. So, the last letter from NHS Borders arrived on my doorstep the day I revealed the religious banking and monarchy fraud interlocks, and I will not be attending Dr. Basil Switzer's offer of a free consult from the Health Board that Deirdre Hutton, yeah, that's Councillor Alistair Hutton, the asset stripper supreme and the Christian preacher who with the people from the Speculative Society in Edinburgh, the Curries, were demonising Islam again on Sunday. Yeah, all of it is for profit. All of it is to kill the innocents in other countries and to brutalise their countries perpetually in the name of the one true God. That's Councillor Alistair Hutton, the boss at RFU with 80 million at the bank, the boss at the council, elected, yeah, by all of the victims of all of these scams, yeah, and the council is 300 million in debt, rising year on year because of the frauds that I've reported, used to run for profit and fraud from the same street address that this time as boss at the Scottish Borders Council. This time as boss at the Scottish Borders Council. That should read local and international healthcare. See pages on corruption in pharma, the civil service and the drugs commissioning. That's Bill Scott's drug commissioning out of St Andrew's House, where I have received, and I also carry around my neck, all of the massive war crimes that have been confirmed as received by Michael Matheson. Yeah, Michael Matheson, the Scottish Justice Secretary, and I saw Paul Wheelhouse, his deputy, who has also confirmed receipt of those massive war crimes and the financial crimes in Lothian Road, which are even bigger than the doctors' frauds and profiteering. That's why they want me silenced, so that they continue with Rifkin's complicity, Jedburgh Sheriff Court's complicity in the massive war crimes of Iraq and Afghanistan, and they want me doped up with antipsychotic drugs that give the same symptoms as Colin Carruthers, yeah, the husband of Valerie Carruthers, who had the massive stroke. Yeah, she's a Fleming, and you know what I've revealed about the Flemings. Dear Professor Lees, I have received copies of the emails you recently sent to Dr. X. These issues are obviously giving you a lot of concern. That's my lobbying on the frauds, on the war crimes, on the massive geopolitical scams, and everybody's pensions and savings being frozen for 7 years back to back. That's the public sector workers and the private sector workers at Ineos and Grangemouth, and all of those issues are right to the doctors, because I put them on a list of people that are relayed in my database as thinking professionals. I now understand a lot more about what they do in life. These issues are obviously giving you a lot of concern, and I would like to see you to discuss how you're handling these concerns. This is dated 2011. It would be helpful to see you jointly with your wife, whose money is now in her solicitor's account with mine. I have no access to it. I have the threat to close me down by the energy system so that I cannot make videos like this. Can you see how it works? And I don't know how they've got the front to do it. But many thanks. Yours sincerely, that's Dr. Ian Fingland. He was not the medic I was talking to. It's Sandy Morris talking to me openly with all his mates in front of the Jedburgh Rugby Club fans at the Jedburgh Sevens. Please see lead up to this issue in the page above. My thoughts and diagrams were on the scams and inbuilt contracts that led to the polypharmacy crisis that they, the GPs, would not take action on until the new government in Scotland was in office. Both GPs that wrote to me have been friends of my family for decades, yet that should be in inverted commas. Keith Fingland, his son, was a friend of my son and was my Facebook friend until they started the 4th attempt to get me sectioned. Through all of that time, when I was Keith Fingland's Facebook friend, I had already been given, from his dad, the policeman, 3 sectioning threats. And you'd think that Fingland would have warned him off as a concerned parent and as a school fucking governor. He's confessed that he's dropped out of that because he's got no children at the school now, and one hopes that this will continue for several more. See my response at the bottom of the page on the issues that put the brigadoon in practice, because I don't tell people that they're the Kelso doctors, that I so much respected. I used to play with Dr. Knox's children, and Dr. Knox brought me into the world, and I heard them sharing vicious jokes with the psychiatrist when they buried Mrs. Knox. She doesn't even get the title doctor because of the sexism that I've reported in the Borders just this week. The sender of the letter above had already visited my house on my invitation. I wanted to discuss fraud in Scotland and in the NHS, and when he left, he said he understood where I was coming from, but he may not have been fully aware of all of the correspondence that I had entered into nationally and internationally. See pages above on polypharmacy, NHS governance, and the interactions between pharmacy and GPs, hospital record keeping, and pharmacovigilance, with some of his partners who declared they would act beyond the next election but deserted their cause and ceased written exchanges. That's 2010, when the corrupted Salmond and Kenny McCaskill were put in place. At that time, all the doctors are decent, but that should not be in my letter anymore. All the doctors or my commentary anymore. All the doctors are decent, but they are in a profiteering honey trap that sadly works against their patients' health and our country's coffers, both sides of the devolved healthcare border. This is called peer pressure, and examples of its massive cost for society and innocent taxpayer patients are all over this website. The letter I have from the school governor GP has been scanned into my computer, so it's more difficult to render anonymous. It has the full list of partners of the brigadoon practice and all the health board ties, so I don't want the correspondents to have shame about their role in what all doctors in the UK do. But first I want to publish my response to their interest in the psychiatric referral. I have nothing to hide, which they now know, and there have been no more referrals to psychiatric services, and the request that my wife attended as a layperson with no understanding of the complex healthcare issues I had opened up freely with the healthcare professionals as a former member of ASCEPT Council in Australasia. That's on the Council for the Australasian Society for Chemistry and Experimental Pharmacology and Toxicology. On the Council for Australasia. 2 years before he made his first sectioning threat, when I proclaimed that now the election is over, are you prepared to work on behalf of your patients? See pages above. Diplomacy and tact is essential in all professions, even for the jobless, which I now are because of their persecution by all of the council leaders and all of the legal leaders and all of the police team and all of the ambulance team. All of it works against the innocents, and I hope you can now see how ruthless they are in their intent, in their method and in their motives. Here is my objective response and request to stay friends with local experts and decent leaders of our community. He's the chair of the school governors at that time. Yeah, and the school governor, the school boss, comes from the Lothian Coast region, where Archbishop O'Brien is still at liberty, aka my response not to attend surgery with my wife in attendance as requested. Okay, so I flatly refused because of my expertise, and I had very little understanding of their role in the whole of the globalised fraud team at that time. I now totally understand it. So that is the 5th of September 2011. Yeah, one of the separation dates was October 2011, for in my wife's totally fraudulent divorce case. Okay, so 5th September, and that's from my own house that they want me out of, so that I cannot access at all any of the savings that they put in. They've shut down my energy since the 4th visit was made. Yeah, also unannounced, also seen through by the Jedburgh Sheriff Court, who have frozen my assets and had demanded that I sent those assets into Miss Tom's account. Dear first name Dr. Y, school governor, another rugby touchline friend, because he goes to the rugby. His son has got such a bad shoulder injury that he cannot now play, and they pretend that none of those acts of God are anything to do with their behaviours. Okay, thank you for your letter dated 1st of September expressing your interest in my correspondence with Dr. X. If you are concerned about the issues both myself and Sandy Morris, yeah, that's not Dr. X anymore, all of the news is coming out, he's from Melrose, mentioned in yesterday's video about the massive frauds and the elites from the Napoleonic Wars being sent there as an internment camp, yeah, for fascists. Yeah, Dr. X exchanged views on GP prescribing targets and bonuses, pharmacoeconomic efficiencies in times of austerity, Australian ASCEPT protocols, the hazards of polypharmacy, and the role of educated professionals. Yeah, that should be in bold writing in taking Scotland and the UK out of its fiscal and moral crisis. Yeah, close brackets. Then I am happy to meet. Question mark. If, on the other hand, your concerns are still for my health, then I would rather not meet you at all. I am revelling in the time to think, and I have never been fitter. If you don't have all the correspondence from Dr. X, first name, that is Dr. Sandy Morris from Melrose, then please let me know. I know you are a leader of the community like Dr. X. So this is Fingland, school governor. Yeah. And as a school governor, I'm surprised at your reaction to honest, enthusiastic people trying to effect constructive change. So I have no concerns, even with the attitude that the practice and Dr. X have displayed to issues that impact on NHS budgets and potentially on patient care. I think Dr. X said up to 40% of your GP salary would be lost if the prescribing targets by volume were not met. Dr. X, yeah, Sandy Morris, initially wrote that he could not discuss these issues before the election results, but declined to enter the debate at all beyond May. I can forward this correspondence if you wish. Regarding your concerns for my welfare, I am not concerned at all. The more recent email was on removing corruption from public affairs, and some of the recent news here is positive. Hang-ups, yeah, and I've reversed now the 7-year pay freeze at St Boswell's, because I've revealed that the Unison bosses are on the court of the Bank of England.
Yeah, that's a threat to the doctors' profit streams, because that is a threat to the elite funds that they get access to by stealing from their patients and dismembering them using these cheap shot tricks. Hang-ups on, that's not in the letter is totally civilised, unlike everything they have done to me since. Hang-ups on politics and income streams are a symptom of the times we live in, and my contacts with your practice have been based on the belief that the medical profession would be duty-bound to confront problems facing patients, healthcare and society. Full stop. So please give me a call if you want to meet and chat informally about these issues around cost efficacy and integration in healthcare. But if not, then I would prefer to keep my distance until you see the weight of the moral and fiscal issues facing the country. I am also happy to forward all the correspondence to you, or to have it published, so that you and all the interested parties can see that my input and my first name Dr. X earlier mail, that's Dr. Sandy Morris, was entirely constructive. Dr. X's correspondence is now somewhat bipolar, but life is full of disappointments, and this issue is relatively trivial for me compared with the global economic picture. I will not trouble him again. So please call me George and let me know if you are up for a friendly chat, and I would be delighted to meet you again, with or without partners and children. A friendly stroll by the river and a blether with you on the touchline would be most welcome. Please let me know if this is possible, or whether you might consider coming to dinner. Your son, Keith, my Facebook friend until a few months back, and my son, and I talked to Keith genially in the supermarket when he came home from the summer holidays, where they're being robbed at university. But because doctors earn a six-figure salary, they're able much more easily to take holidays to London and watch the Super Bowl and extend, in my case, my children's debt pool. And my son Archie are close friends. All my relatives, contacts and I know you, and first name Dr. X are a force for good in the community. I hope Kay's injury is healing quickly and that he gets back to the game soon. That has not unfortunately happened, nor did they follow up when I sent them that really genial and informed letter. And there are 6 pages on my expertise in drug safety and my presence on the ASCEPT Council for 2 full years when I was working as a professor of pharmacology in the South Pacific. And all of the ownership of that country has been exposed by me, and all of it is still in the hands of the Crown. Okay? So there's the CVs, there's my publications, even since I came back from New Zealand, on chronic issues, intractable pain and appraising drug safety post-launch. And that's my conversations are with, let's see if we can go back and show you how my expertise is focused in this area. But they want me silenced. As long as they divert me, I cannot make new videos on the topics that I'm supposed to be making videos on. I'm the only person in Scotland who's committed to any form of law enforcement. Please look at my video channel, which is George Lee's YouTube, Kelsonian Smithsonian, and you'll find in the last few videos that I'm revealing the massive fraud that is Law Enforcement Scotland. All of my letters to Lord Wallace of Tankerness, all of it is pleading with the Scottish Government and the British Government and the Lord's Advocate for those 2 pathetic profiteering countries. They profiteer now against their patients and against all of their taxpayers and ratepayers. Okay, so there's the Hippocratic Oath, and I've got a whole series of things that you can look up on my website for yourself, because I don't want to make this video too long. The Physician's Oath, At the time of being admitted as a member of the medical profession, I solemnly pledge myself to consecrate my life to the service of humanity. I will give to my teachers the respect and gratitude which is their due. I will practice my profession with conscience and dignity. The health of my patient will be my number one consideration. I will maintain by all means in my power the honour and the noble traditions of the medical profession. My colleagues will be my brothers. I will not permit considerations of religion, nationality, race, party politics or social standing to intervene between my duty and my patient. Yeah, Sandy Morris wrote to me and said he did not want any more letters because he did not believe in polemic. I don't know what polemic is. I will maintain the utmost respect for human life from the time of conception, even under threat. I will not use my medical knowledge contrary to the laws of humanity. I'm really glad that those decisions are still in God's hands. I make these promises solemnly, freely, and upon my honour. Head of the school governors. Decent enough at this end to shield them as the brigadoon healthcare practice. Okay, so I can show you also NHS fraud, the costs to the taxpayers and the patients, and there's a whole series of other sites that you can visit on my web pages. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, NHS fraud, the cost to the taxpayers and the patients, you've seen that. Hippocratic Oath, Pharma, my old boss on the Forbes listings, and Sir David Steele at the Wellcome Trust, referral to psychiatric services for my interests in local health care. And I think there's more. Oh no. There is more. Yeah, all of the stuff about my expertise and me being on the council. Yeah, and the person that runs the care home, his family had a psychiatric tragedy back in Australia. It was on the front page of the papers. I will not tell you the ID of that person. I've already mentioned it in the video. It will not take a lot of thinking to see that. And when I was at Mrs. Knox's funeral, yeah, it was Mrs. Knox was buried in a cardboard box. Yeah, and it's really, really sad that all of the people that were there are in this team. I would never have believed it. I thought that the region was absolutely innocent and quite sleepy, really. Okay, so I'm going to sign off there, but there are other sites. Let's see if we can find it in any one of those. So there's the drug safety stuff on Vioxx and other treatments, linked to thousands of deaths. Yeah, that's why they want to give you the untested drugs. There's my membership of the Intensive Medicines Monitoring Programme and all of the work that I used to do with Dr. David Clark in New Zealand, and all of the people like the Uppsala monitoring system. And that is Marie Lindquist. She was getting emails from me as an expert thinking professional at the same time as the Kelso surgery. I know where her heart lies, and I know that the Uppsala Monitoring Centre is an independent foundation and a centre for international service and scientific research. It's world class, like all of the activities out of Dunedin, where we discovered all of the issues about thalidomide decades back. It's the most underfunded science on our globe because pharma are not allowed to profit from it. It makes every decision on accessing drugs for a poor nation like New Zealand objective and totally cost effective, and all of the drugs are safe because they've been assessed for decades already. And this will be Bill Scott, I think. Yeah, there he is. Bill Scott, Professor Bill Scott, Professor at Robert Gordon's, where he sat in judgment for me as the chair of the appointments panel. There's St Andrew's House where he works. That's St Andrew's House, who have sent me the confirmation of receipts of the war crimes that were sent to Paul Wheelhouse and to Michael Matheson. MP for Falkirk, where my auntie used to live before she was placed in a very expensive care home, and my wife was put in charge of the disseminating of the cash from her will. Yeah, by my Auntie Anne, who used to work for the Edinburgh Council. Yeah, and they used to keep their own mum in their own house in Kirstoffen, where the Panda is. Yeah, the Panda has a £70,000 a year food budget, and because my auntie, yeah, who's a Church of Scotland profiteer, and her husband is a Church of Scotland profiteer in sub-Saharan Africa. He's called Gilbert Curry, and he used to run the Parks bus dynasty. Yeah, and he was persecuted as well by Deirdre Hutton in the health board, and all of it is a sad set of profiteering gestures and deceitful tactics to try and silence the most innocent people in our country, and I will not be put down by them. Yeah, so please confirm that you've seen this video on Facebook. Yeah, because I post everything on Facebook. Let's find first my son's confirmation that he understands exactly what they're doing, and that he said he was totally proud of me. That may have been taken down, but I've got it copied and backed up on the computer next door. Okay. I'm still here. I've just put the camera down so I can use both hands. Which I will not be able to use in a straitjacket. Do you realise that? My son, not the one that went to the Super Bowl and is now being robbed blind in Dundee, right next door to General Sir Charles Guthrie and Brian Cox, who's got 5 massive homes in America. Okay, and I have the keys in if you have the keys in Dundee, I'm cool. So my wife is trying to take half of my home from me, and this is, I will not show you my son's Facebook page for the privacy of his other friends. Yeah, this is in the chat box. It's going to go public if they try and follow through with this 7th section threat now. If you have the keys in Dundee, I'm cool with that. My home is still yours, and I'm happy to share everything we have worked for. Does his girlfriend have any real big sisters? I might invite round for coffee. Have you seen my Dr. Fingland sectioning video? It was great fun, and he confirmed everything the maths teacher who taught my son, so he could get to university. Yeah, and he's a friend of mine. He works as a supply teacher and as a beater on the estates for £32 a day. He's a decent kind of man. He was the one who told me that Fingland was a doctor before, was a policeman before he became a medic, and Fingland has confirmed that twice now. Yeah, he confirmed it when the camera was not on, and he just confirmed it briefly when I asked the question when I booted them out of my door on their last uninvited visit. Okay, so I'm asking my son if he's seen the video, and he says, I do have the keys, yes, but I'll return to them when I see you next. I'm afraid she doesn't, only an older brother. Yeah, this is within days of my divorce. It's important for everybody that is threatened this way relentlessly that you keep your sense of humour, and everyone in Kelso, on the streets of our town, in the supermarkets, knows that I have one. I did, and you certainly told him your mind, and I'm really proud that you can stand up for yourself no matter what people are telling you. I'll Skype you sometime when I set up my account. That is one of my innocent children. Yeah, all of them have had all of my assets taken from me. They're going to take the home that I totally owned from the middle of 2011, and as soon as I've paid off the mortgage, they start the heat. Yeah? The election of the Scottish Government was in exactly the same period. Yeah? They were unprepared to talk about the healthcare frauds until the new government was announced, and when it was, they tried to section me, because they understood that I work for the patients and with a conscience, and they are total profiteers at their patients' expense, and they will have to account for that in the face of their maker in due course. Okay, so I do have the keys, yes. I'm afraid she doesn't, only an older brother. I did see your Fingland and Basil Switzer video. You certainly told him your mind, and I'm really proud that you can stand up for yourself no matter what people are telling you. Okay, that's my son. He's now been taken way out of range. I will not be able to use him as a witness at my hearing, and I would not dare trust my disloyal wife, because she's from Chipping Norton. Yeah, and she's in league with the British government, which is why I'm being persecuted by the British police, who are not at all interested in this post. Yeah, so there's the Energy Ombudsman's call. There is, let's go to my site. Okay, there's the company check frauds for all of the people that are the Marquis and Earl of Minto up the valley. Massive financial frauds. They are actually claimants to the British throne. There's the Lothian and Borders police letter 2 days ago that I wrote about Lord Wallace of Tankerness, and my pleading with law enforcement all over Britain to find any vent to report serious fraud, including the massive healthcare frauds and a whole long list of frauds. Okay, and further down you'll see that every time they visit, I vigorously respond. There's the student debt problem that we now have. Yeah, Fingland totally condones that. He allows the debt burden for innocent families to build up. Yeah, and as a six-figure salary earner, for the reasons we've learned, he is able to send his son to the Super Bowl with mine in tow. All of mine are now in debt pools. And that is the campaign that means that I've stopped working in universities, because I'm trying to reveal to all of the parentage what the educated people that emerge from the system are doing to their kids now. I got my degree for free, so did Fingland. I don't even know whether or not the characters they have with them are legitimate medics. You don't need to know that. Yeah? And I don't care. Yeah? I do care about society and its welfare, which is the closing statement that I made when I booted Fingland and Switzer out of the door the last time. Yeah, and I'm in communication for my own safety with my colleagues on different continents, and that is the war crimes in Gallipoli. And since I reported the Mr. Bean joke, we have imposed some new war dead in the cemetery at Kelso and a new memorial to them. Mr. Bean was the war correspondent for Gallipoli, and that is the London Olympics joke. And the doctor at Granton-on-Spey, yeah, who shared a coffee with us and was good enough to lend my son a pair of waders, because I could not afford them, because I've been persecuted like this. He was a doctor that had continually moved into bigger houses, and eventually he was living in the home that used to be the home for Ang Young Sao Ki, the daughter of a tank commander who was invited to give a historic speech. Yeah? And when I write to that man now, he refuses to reply. He's Irish. All of it is a pan-global fraud project. Okay? And all of those NZ students and their parents are now shielding the Anzac war dead jokes, which are the last 2 videos I made, which is why they want me diverted from that instrument, using instruments like that and the dopaminergic drugs that will give me the same symptoms as the people that were the husbands. Yeah, and I admired them greatly. They were scrum halves in the rugby team, and I could never play as well as them. Yeah, and when God gives them what they deserve, all of them begin to see it with full understanding. Anyway, let's get that